Okay, this is Doug again. We were going to do a three-part series on this, but we've seen some stuff that we've missed, so we're going to add part number 4. So this is basically the measurements and how we measure and the measurement that you guys are interested in seeing on a saddle. So we're going to just touch on this real quick. When you order a saddle, there's 2 basic measurements that we're going to want from you. One is you put your tape right there above this little hole, and you bring it back to here. This one is 16 inches, so right to the inside of this seat is 16 inches. If it went straight up, it's still the same thing. You want right at the inside of the top of that seat. That'll give us a good idea of what we're dealing with as far as your seat size. The next thing we want to do is go to the middle of the seat, come down, and measure to where your foot sits in the stirrup. This one appears to be about 34.5 inches. So that's the 2 measurements that we're going to want from you. Now here's the measurements everybody wants from us, and we'll just deal with them right now. And this is something that we should have dealt with before and we didn't. Everybody wants to know the length of the bar. This is a 16-inch seat. Length of this bar is about 21.5 inches. If it was a 15-inch saddle, it's probably going to be an inch shorter. We're going to have our bars pass about 2 inches past the back of the seat. So we have to have something to build a saddle on. We want this long enough that it carries and distributes weight as much as possible, but if it gets too long, it's going to get into start flanking the horses, especially if it's not flared like our bars are. If it's too short, well then your horse might lose its comfort because it doesn't have enough bar to spread the weight. The other thing that everybody worries about is gullet, and gullet is a tricky deal. So most of our saddles are 6.5 inches. This is an extra wide tree, so it's going to be 6.5. So, and it's hard to measure gullets on a made saddle. There you go, 6.5 inches. On our standard tree and wide tree, have you got some there handy? Okay, so there's what is this going to be? Sorry, I'll get right. Okay, here's a standard tree. Let's just check it real quick. Okay, that baby's about 6 inches. And so is our wide tree. But here's the thing. If we just left these things in this standard tree, hand me that other tree back again real quick. If this standard tree was wider and the horse isn't, we put more gullet in there to compensate for the shoulders. What happens is that the saddle just keeps falling farther and farther down. So if you look at the angle on these 2 trees, well, you should be able to tell. But this one's on about 45 degrees, which is what almost all saddles are made on. This one's on almost 55 degrees. So instead of just taking the bar out farther and farther on this to fit this bigger horse and poking it out here farther, and then running the risk of this coming down and getting on the horse's back, we just move it a little bit and flare it out, and then that way it runs with the horse's conformation, which makes a lot more sense, and it stops a lot of other problems from happening. Again, if we have a cast, we'll put this thing wherever it needs to be. Typically, these 2 gullet measurements work for just about any horse that we've come across anyway. So we just wanted to touch on this stuff and make sure we didn't leave anything out. Is that everything? Okay, I think we got everything on here. Thanks again.